and welcome. My name is Amy Stoff. Thank you for joining me for my presentation on why classical art teachers should teach the National Core Art Standards. This topic came about in a very personal way for me. After having done a whole bunch of thinking on the subject, I feel somewhat qualified to share my thoughts. Just a little bit in the way of background information. I am currently teaching at a private classical school, but I was educated on how to be an art teacher at a public university. And so I have some familiarity with the national standards from two different perspectives. If you are teaching in a private school, you probably aren't required to use the standards, but I will be making the argument that you should be using the standards for one main reason. They will give you a framework to begin your lesson plans from, which is compatible with just about any educational philosophy. As such, they will enable your students to engage in meaningful discussions and participation in the arts with all people, no matter what type of education they've had. And this is something they should be doing for the rest of their lives, to have a diverse and abundant life of the mind. The standards lay a common ground and a base of artistic knowledge for everyone, and they do align with classical values. First, let me state my assumptions about classical education so we're on the same page to start out. The first is that it stands for academic excellence. It is rigorous. We push our students to achieve all that they are capable of. Secondly, it values the teaching of logic. It also teaches virtue, beauty, truth, and goodness. Finally, in the classical system, we use history as our guiding outline for all subjects. We love to look to the past and see what we can learn from it. There are many more truths about classical education, but these are the 4 points that I will be bringing out in this presentation as they relate to the 4 areas of artistic literacy: creating, presenting, responding, and connecting. So let's start with the idea of academic excellence. Anchor standard number 3 is refine and complete artistic work. In the creating process, you are basically taking an idea and turning it into a physical work of art, all the way up through the final revision of it. I always have the students create 3 different sketches of their project, and then we sit down together and refine them, talk about them, and choose the best one. They move forward with that one. From there, I teach them how to improve upon their work. This goes back to the idea of academic rigor and teaching about quality. It's not enough to just do something. I want to teach them how to do it well so that it looks beautiful. When I'm teaching techniques, I have step-by-step examples. Over to the right of the slide, you'll see what this looks like. In this project, we're copying The Girl with the Pearl Earring. So I show them how to draw it step by step, and then I use it as a way to teach them dry pastel technique. In the performance standards, it says apply relevant criteria to examine, reflect on, and plan revisions to a work of art or design in progress. So we're teaching them how to improve upon their ideas. The standards teach us to convey meaning through the presentation of artistic work. Those are the words of standard number 6. Students love to create works with meaning. In making their own artwork, they are developing a logical visual representation of an abstract idea. We get to employ symbolism, which is mentioned in the standards as well. In 6th grade, I begin to teach them the principles of design. I have a project where they look at Picasso's Guernica, and I tell them the story behind the creation of it. And they are asked to then choose a social issue or historical event that they feel passionate about and create a drawing about it. We talk about how the contrast principle of design lends itself really well to representing these very serious issues. We use charcoal as our medium because it creates that stark black and white contrast. Another performance standard states, based on criteria, analyze and evaluate methods for preparing and presenting art. This particular project is one that is almost wasted if you don't display it. These pieces want to be talked about and engaged with, so we do display them. And we talk about what kind of orientation would be best for viewers to be able to see each piece and think about each one individually. And when these are up at the art show, it does make quite a statement. Standard number 9 is apply criteria to evaluate artistic work. This is where the characteristic of teaching virtue really comes in. When we're looking at art, what constitutes beauty, truth, and goodness? As classical educators, we teach students the language of art criticism through new vocabulary words. We want the students not only to be able to make art, but to be able to talk about it intelligently, both their own work and famous works. We may even hold critiques in class where the students articulate how they conveyed meaning in their artwork. The performance standard that exemplifies this is create a convincing and logical argument to support an evaluation of art. This is found under the responding section. So they're also getting to use their logic skills. They're looking critically at art and asking, in what way is this a great work of art? Or how does it fall short in others, perhaps? The standards encourage us to relate art to history. That is anchor standard number 11. This is essential in an educational model where we use history as our framework. I always try to line up my art history with the history that they're getting in their main classes. In the younger grades, I do have them copy famous artworks from different time periods. And when they get a little older, I shift more to having them use the same concepts that were of interest in historic art movements and make their own work using those ideas. When I am teaching my students art history, I love to present it as a story. I try to help them understand the cultural context through story. In that sense, they start to see the history and how it relates to their own story. If they can empathize with Van Gogh, for example, being rejected by the Academy during his lifetime, that's going to stick with them, especially if there's some area of their life where they feel that lack of approval. So the performance standard that we're bringing out here is analyzing how art reflects changing times, traditions, resources, and cultural uses. As a final thought, I want to cite one of the lifelong goals from the National Core Arts Standards. Under the arts as culture, history, and connectors, it says artistically literate citizens know and understand artwork from varied historical periods and cultures and actively seek to appreciate diverse forms and genres of artwork of enduring quality and significance. I think that really sums up what I want for my students. Whether they enter the arts as their field or not, I want them to have the world of art opened for them because it will add so much richness to their lives. I want them to know about and enjoy art and converse about it with their friends. Fluency in the arts is a powerful piece of what it means to be a lifelong learner. I believe that to truly be a lifelong learner, you have to be a lifelong creator, and I try to give them one piece of that in my art room. Art has such a power to bring people together, and if we as teachers equip our students with the tools to appreciate the arts, we are giving them something to enjoy the rest of their lives. That concludes my presentation, and if you are an art educator and you have a question or need help with a problem that I've addressed here, would you please leave a comment or question down in the comments section below? I always appreciate feedback as I'm looking to constantly improve my content, and of course, I want to help you with the information I've learned in this course. Thank you so much for listening, and in the last slide you will find my sources.